we still get blamed for it all going wrong, but not quite as bad as it was after Liz Truss was Prime Minister for a few days.
Hi, I'm Sophie and this is Party Games, where I play games with politicians. And I'm joined here today with the lovely Alex Cunningham, Labour MP, Shadow Minister for Courts and Sentencing. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Hi, thank you for joining me here to play Pop-Up Pirate we've got today. Do you know how to play Pop-Up Pirate?
I can gather. I think I might know. I haven't played, but I think it looks pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So lots of coloured swords. We put the swords into the barrel. The pirate is down. At some point, one of the swords will pop it up. Aim of the game is to not let the pirate pop up. Right. So I'm going to let you go first. If you'd like to. Yeah. Labour red. Nice choice.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Oh.
Yep. Get them right in. Yeah, okay.
There's a bumpy bit at the end.
No, that's the fear, isn't it? That's when it pops up. You started off as a journalist, didn't you?
That's right. I started on the grand old Darlington and Stockton Times, which was a weekly newspaper known as the Farmer's Bible, because all the farmers used to get it, because we used to have all the market prices in the papers.
And what drew you to journalism to start with? Was that when you were quite young? Were you doing it that then?
Yes, well, I mean, I decided when I was about 14 that I wanted to be a journalist. Maybe because English was my strongest subject at school, but then I've always been into the people thing, and I suppose journalism, then politics, you know, it all fits together.
Yes, no, it definitely does. In one way or another, though, I am staying firmly on this side of the table at the moment. Okay, we're in. I've done another one. Would you like to have another try?
Yes, we'll have another go. And from this side, I think.
Local paper, are there any standout stories that you remember covering, any local scandals or things like that?
You know, it was a weekly newspaper, and I suppose the highlight of working for the Darlington and Stockton Times was going to the Great Yorkshire Show. And I actually became an authority on buttermilk yields in milk. So, so we did all those sorts of things, but for a weekly paper, it wasn't terribly exciting.
I'm going to sneakily try and put one in and hope that we don't notice anything go on. Nope, we're safe so far.
Good.
Yeah, you ended up, there was a bit of crossover, if I'm right in thinking, so I know you did lots of local politics and stuff. There was a time when you were a press officer.
I mean, I've done a number of different roles. So, I mean, after the DNS Times, I went to the Hartlepool Mail, and I was a court reporter for a while. I then went into radio with Radio Tees, which is now TFM, then Radio Clyde, then back into newspapers, the Evening Gazette on Teesside, and then I took the money and went into public relations work with the gas industry, and I actually stayed for 17 years.
Yeah, so then what were you doing on the side with politics then? How did that sort of start out?
Well, my whole politics thing about being a member of Parliament started when I was 15. There was a man called Ted Fletcher, who at that time was the Member of Parliament for Darlington. And I met him, and he was a real inspirational character. And it only took me 40 years, and I got elected just a few days after my 55th birthday.
I wanted to ask you a bit about that when you got elected, because that was 2010, right? And that was obviously a personal win for you. You've been elected, you become an MP, but ultimately Labour, who are in power, lose their majority at that election too. How was that election night?
Well, election night was bittersweet. My seat was safe. My majority was 8,500, but my colleague in Stockton South lost her seat, as many of my colleagues did around the country as well. So it was bittersweet. But I always remember coming up out of Westminster Station and seeing the clock tower. I know everybody calls it Big Ben, but we all know that the bell is Big Ben, and realising that I had made it. But then, of course, very soon after that, I realised that when you're not in government, you're almost powerless. So, so that was disappointing. But I think we've done a job over the years and held the government to account. But can I tell you that the Big Ben bell was actually originally cast in my constituency, half a mile from my back door. But they brought it to London, they fit the clapper, and they broke the bell. So it had to be recast at Whitechapel. We'll go with green and... I'm in.
We're doing okay, we're doing okay.
Yep.
So, we're 14 years on now, you've been an MP. I mean, you've worked under lots of different Labour leaders, you've seen Brexit, COVID, all these different parts. Are there some sort of standout moments or periods for you over that time?
Well, I suppose from a personal point of view, there was one piece of legislation which I championed and got through, and that was to ban smoking in cars where there were children present, because we found out that over 500,000 children every day were sitting in cars smoking second-hand smoke. So that was good. But there was a time when David Cameron was under pressure from some of his colleagues, and there was talk at the time of a stalking horse to take him on. And during Prime Minister's questions, I posed the question, and it was at the same time as the horse meat scandal. And so I asked the question, could the Prime Minister confirm that there's been traces of stalking horse in the Conservative Party food chain? And the place fell about laughing.
I'm going to sneakily try and get one in if I can now. We've done.
Right, good.
To talk about something a bit more tense. Recently, you were in the news quite a lot after you asked a question at PMQs to Rishi Sunak about child poverty in your constituency, and then James Cleverly, the Home Secretary, was overheard saying what we thought was a shithole after that. He then said he didn't say that, he was actually calling you a MP.
Well, I mean, I was concentrating on what the Prime Minister was saying to me, because he was using very different figures to the ones that everybody else uses to describe poverty. But, I actually found out from a colleague on the front bench who actually heard this. I didn't personally hear it until afterwards with the recording. But straightforward as far as I'm concerned, he insulted my constituency, he didn't insult me. But then maybe he did insult me by insulting my constituency, but what a horrible thing to say.
How was that period for you? How is it when something blows up in the news?
Well, I mean, it's very exciting, really. It was good fun as well. Yeah. But of course, there was always the serious line to it. If that's the attitude of the Home Secretary to areas like mine, do they deserve to be in government? He most certainly does not. So it was very exciting, and I had a very, very busy weekend.
Yeah, I can imagine. Have you spoken to him around?
No, I don't think we want to be in the same room together, to be honest, because he's sticking to his guns. But I know what he said, and what's more, the nation knows what he said as well. All right, it's got to be red this time.
Go on, Labour red.
We're
doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good. Okay, shall I do another one straight up?
You're just having me on.
Okay, let's see. We're doing okay.
I'm avoiding the blue ones just in case.
Tory blue. Can you describe to people what it's like being in the chamber during PMQs?
Maybe it's quite difficult to describe it. It is noisy. It does come across as very childish, but it's also a very serious set of circumstances as well, where people are, posing questions and not getting answers. At least they feel as if they're not getting answers in a lot of cases. And so it can be frustrating as well. But sometimes when you hear some of the lines that come out, they seem, you could only meet them with derision. I don't mind a bit of a good shout occasionally. Yeah,
it's quite funny. Everyone gets their passion out, it feels, doesn't it?
Well, it's our, that's the way we deal with our mental health in the Commons. We have a good shout at Prime Minister's questions.
A lot of jeering. Okay, right, would you like to, is it your turn again?
Is it my turn?
I think it's your turn.
Well, if this pops, I'll deny it was my turn.
Okay, we're doing okay. Okay. So, Alex, we've obviously been talking a lot about your 14 years in, but recently you announced that you're going to stand down at the next general election.
That's right. Well, I was born on May Day 1955, so I'll be 69 this year, before what we thought might have been the general election.
How are you feeling about that, being away from this crazy place, if we could call it that?
There's some mixed feelings, because it looks as though the Labour are about to go into government after the general election. I sincerely hope so. I know only one poll matters, but things are looking quite positive at the moment. So I'll miss the opportunity to serve in government, because Gordon Brown was leader when I first came into the Commons in 2010. That was only a matter of weeks, and then we had Harriet and various others along the way. But for me, it's a shame to miss out out on being in government, but I'm sure my colleagues will do fine.
Do you have a favourite leader? You might have to say Keir, mightn't you?
Well, I suppose if I look all the way back, I would say my favourite was probably Gordon Brown.
Why?
Gordon, I think was. Well, I think he's probably one of the biggest brains in the world, and you know, I think history will treat him better than you know, recent times or post-election did, because he was the guy that came up with a plan that you know, I wouldn't say saved the world, but you know, helped drive stability across the world. And of course, he did the right thing at home and protected individuals. But of course, we still get blamed for it all going wrong, but not quite as bad as it was after Liz Truss was Prime Minister for a few days.
That did go wrong, didn't it? Okay, well, I just snuck one in, so it's definitely your turn.
Another red one then.
Another red.
Oh.
You're doing okay? Okay.
You have tested it, haven't you?
I have tested it.
Oh, right, okay.
I have. I'll try again. Okay, we're doing okay?
Yeah.
So what does life look like for you after? What do you plan to do after life in this place?
Well, you know, I trained as a journalist, as you said at the beginning of our chat, and I want to do a bit of writing, not necessarily for publication, but I want to do some writing. I want to put some of the stuff down that I've done over the years, not maybe for my own satisfaction rather than anybody else's, but maybe something for the family in the future. But then Evelyn and I plan to see a bit of the world.
Where would you like to go?
Oh, well, we want to do the Far East, China, Japan, Cambodia, Australia, New Zealand, and who knows, we might get to South America as well. This year, we've started our retirement early, whilst I'm still working, and we're heading for Alaska, Canada and Alaska this year.
Amazing. Okay, that's something to look forward to. Hopefully, our general election doesn't
get in the way.
Change the plans.
And of course, I'll see a bit more of my family, particularly my grandson.
Yeah. Okay, right. Do you want to try another one?
I'm glad you're using all the blue ones.
I know. I'm using them for. Oh my gosh! It definitely works.
It definitely works. So,
okay.
You win.
It's a win for me. Okay. Well, before we go, I'll ask you one last question.
Yep.
So obviously, general election. It comes, potentially going to be lots of new MPs. What's a random piece of advice you might give them? And I'm talking like, what's the best canteen, restaurant in here? What are the best shortcuts in Parliament? How best to get yourself invited on fun shows like party games?
Well, party games, of course, will be top of my list. I'll make sure that they all know as they're coming in. But for me, I'm sorry to be serious about this, but one thing that I would recommend everybody to do is make sure that you take on at least one or two experienced staff who've worked with a Member of Parliament before, because that way you'll be able to get on with the day job and they will be able to support you in the background. I came in here, I inherited Darry Taylor's researcher, and I inherited two of Vera Baird's staff up in the constituency. So I had 3 experienced staff when I started out, and it just made the world a difference, because Emily, who was the researcher, she just looked after everything. She set up the office, she got everything going, she pushed and pulled me in the right directions. I think she was the boss rather than me.
That's what you need. Okay, that's some great advice. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Party Games. So that's been a win for Sophie and a loss for the MP. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Party Games, and if you've enjoyed, make sure to like, comment and subscribe.